Anything from the town attorney? Anything from the administrator of public works?
No, thank you.
Do I have a motion to open this up for public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Carried. If you wish to make a comment or ask a question, please raise your hand. Sir, could you come up to the front and speak into the microphone?
This is usually the time when all or most of the high school students come up and ask a question.
But hopefully don't voice their opinion.
Okay, Mark Komorski, Lagrange Fire Commissioner. Just wanted to state that regarding the two agenda items, the two races in the town, the 5K race and the Roadrunners Club, that if there's a need or desire for an ambulance, we would be happy to provide one. If you'd like, just please email the district office sooner rather than later so we can staff it and have an ambulance there.
Is that something?
When I email them back, I'll let them know.
I was gonna say, let's pass
That's what
that
I
on to them.
normally do.
Okay.
Right.
They normally notify you, and they normally notify the sheriff's department and I.
Terrific. Just wanted to put that out
Yeah,
there.
but
We're
I'll
happy
put
to
it in there
participate.
for you too.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Thanks. Anything else?
Should I make a quick public comment?
No, you're done.
Can I keep walking in? Just in light of Mark, I failed to mention in my comments before, and I want to thank Mark, he's here this evening, and Commissioner of Lagrange Fire Department. They came out and helped us and supported us at the community bonfire, and came and called the department, and had the brush truck there, put the fire out for us, make sure everything was safe. And they're trying to work with us to manage our ice surface, and it's been a little bit of a learning curve for us this year. But we certainly appreciate the offer and the teamwork. They were a huge part of Community Day with us last year, really for the first time in our Touch a Truck area. And it's just really encouraging to me to see that relationship developing and building. And I just wanted to publicly thank Mark, and I know he's certainly have had an awful lot to do with that. So thank you to you, and please bring that back to the department and to the chief. And I just wanted to say thanks.
Anything else? Sir?
I'm Pete Redmond, and I just want to thank the board and the rec department for the awesome job they're doing on the ice rink. I've skated since I was a kid. I love it. It's a great job. Thank
Don't
you.
break anything.
I'll try. Well, we got an ambulance, right?
There you go.
Thank you.
I wasn't saying don't break anything because of our liability. I was your safety. Okay, anything else? Do I have a motion to close?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a
So
second?
moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Carried. Town board discussion. In front of you, there are a package of 4 sets of things regarding small cell wireless communications. We've had a couple of applications come in for a different technology related to cell communication. The new technology has smaller scale antennas that are about 3 or 4 feet high. Instead of them going on towers that are 100, 150 feet tall, they are likely to be deployed on existing poles, either light poles or telephone poles, that sort of thing. As I said, we've had 2 different requests come in, and our zoning department realized that our process and our law really doesn't lend itself very well to these kinds of applications. And so I've pulled some information from other towns and from FCC laws to take a look at what we ought to be doing with this, and this is my first pass at a proposal. The first document you should have is a copy of our current wireless law with the changes redlined within it. The bulk of it is in the last 2 pages, which are all added sections to deal with these kinds of applications versus the more conventional style. Also, in updating the law, I made a couple of other changes or recommendations. One is to eliminate the setback requirements of 500 feet for schools and buildings. My position is that's not really compatible with current FCC law, which doesn't allow the town to regulate placement based on safety concerns. The second one is there's a substantial section, I and J, that have been in there since the law was actually passed, that has to do with the special permits that are gotten for towers expiring after 2 years, and the applicants having to come back in and reapply for the same permit. In discussing this with our zoning administrator, discovered a couple of things. First of all, nobody's ever done that. And second of all, he doesn't really see what we would be reviewing if they were coming in and doing this. They are required by law to maintain the licensing requirements and so forth for the FCC. And since they're not changing where they're placing it, it's not clear what the board would be reviewing in a special permit review. And so, and it specifically says that it automatically gets reviewed and if there hadn't been any changes. So it seems redundant to me, and it seems a waste, and since we haven't really been deploying it, I don't think we ought to have things in our laws that we're not actually going to do. So I'm recommending removing that as well. But as I said, the bulk is at the end. I'd like you to take a look at that and see what you think about what I put in here. As I said, I borrowed sizable chunks of this out of, I think it was Beacon's Law. There's had a lot of other things in it because it's a city, and so they're contemplating it being put on city structures, and because they own all the infrastructure, theirs is a bit more involved than I think we need it. But take a look and see what you think about it. We'll discuss it at the next meeting. The next one in your package has to do with usage. The current usage table requires a special permit for all wireless communications facilities. My recommendation is that we put a footnote on there, and I've included the footnote that would just say for small cell wireless, see the applicable section that we're adding, because there's exceptions to that you may need a special permit, you may not, and that's all outlined in the law. So what I'm recommending is we simply put a footnote on that and forward it to the appropriate legislation. I've added, the next one is a bunch of definitions. These are all new and are used in the law, so we need to provide definitions, the most significant one of which is the small cell wireless telecommunications facility. And in effect defines what it is that would trigger this part of the statute rather than the existing one. And the last is a recommended fee schedule for these kinds of applications versus the more conventional ones that we have. These fees are consistent with the FCC guidelines. The FCC came out with all new guidelines for this technology last September, I believe, regulating and limiting the kinds of fees that can be placed on them. There are municipalities in the country that are placing significantly more fees on these. Rollouts is a way of generating revenue. The FCC has determined that the fee schedule needs to match the actual cost of the municipality rather than trying to gain revenue from the rollout. This is because the FCC views the small cell as a significant, the build out is a significant, important thing to the country's rollout of high-speed broadband, because the small-scale cellular is what's going to be used to deploy the next generation network, the 5G network that's up to 100 times faster than the current one. And so they've severely limited both the kind of regulations that the towns can put in place as well as their fees, because they want to encourage the rollout of that high-speed network. In any event, take a look at all of this and we'll discuss it in detail at the next meeting. Okay? Do you have a question?
Well, I read it.
Okay, sure. Okay, that's good.
The removal of the setbacks seems fine because you kept the 1.5 times.
Right.
Which works very well. The question I had is this 50-foot maximum height.
Right.
What is, if they're going to use existing poles, we're not going to make those 50 feet.
In some cases, that is what they're proposing. What they're proposing is that in some cases, they're going to go on an existing pole but they're going to increase the size of the pole because what they're putting on needs to be above what's there. And the two examples I will give you is imagine it going on a lamp or a current light fixture in a parking lot. Those lights are typically 30 feet high. What they're gonna wanna do is increase the pole to say 45 feet high, keep the light right where it is, and put the transponders above it. Similar kind of a thing with telephone poles. If you look at the telephone poles, there's no place on that telephone pole you're gonna put a 4 or 5 foot transponder and not have it tangled in the wires that are already on there. And so if they're gonna put it on a telephone pole, they're typically gonna replace that with a new pole, leave all the wires where they are, and put this above it. And so that's why we picked.
Good explanation.
Right, and what we have said is, if they're putting on an existing pole, and they're not going to be making any changes to the pole, then they probably only need a building permit. If they're going to be putting on an existing pole and it's going to be going up to a maximum of 50 foot or a new pole, they only need site plan. And if they are going above 50 feet, then we're back to the old special permit, site plan, the whole review that's already there for all the town.
And you're not gonna be using the old towers.
In some cases, they may very well be deploying these small transponders on existing large towers as well. That's not clear to
They
me.
don't need it.
If they were doing that, it would be a co-location and would be handled the way that the current light or law
Oh,
permits.
good.
Okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yep. That's all I've got. I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn to executive session to consult with our attorneys on some pending legal matters or
Litigation.
legal matters,
Litigation.
litigation and lawsuits.
Okay,
Do I have a motion?
so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Carried. You guys are done. You can come up and get the stuff signed. I will do that for you. Yeah, I asked him about that already. It'll be fine. I already asked him to do that. What they're telling me to do is just let it.
You can step aside. I don't know what to do.